Every now and then, a special person comes into our lives. We are typically unaware that we meet these individuals at the most opportune time. At a first glance, it may appear to be so, but it's not always necessarily the case. Even if we're only fortunate to know these individuals for a very short amount of time, the influence and the imprint that they leave behind lasts for a lifetime. Good afternoon. I'm Mike Tarango. Today I'm going to share with you how a very fortunate encounter with a very special person at a relatively low point in my life greatly influenced the path that I was on, both in my military career and my personal life. Before I get into exactly how this person's influence impacted me, I would like to take a brief moment to introduce you to him. I've met a lot of people during my military career, but none have ever had a greater impact on me personally than Master Sergeant Brad Allen Clemens. Master Sergeant Clemens was an EOD technician stationed in Eielson Air Force Base, Alaska. He was at the latter end of his career, having 3 years left to go to retirement prior to receiving orders for this deployment. Brad was married and had 3 kids. He and his wife actually had received word that they were expecting their 4th child prior to our departure for our deployment in August of 2006. Well, if you knew Brad, he just loved kids and was ecstatic about the notion that he was going to be a father for one more time. I first met Brad in May of 2006 in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We were attending training there for the mission that we were going to be doing in Iraq. I was hesitant at first because I didn't know what to expect, as this was my first deployment, or training for that matter. However, I was fortunate enough to be placed on Brad's team. Being an EOD technician, he had been around the block a few times with several deployments and trainings, so he helped me ease into this entire training and deployment environment. Well, now that the stage has been set, I'd like to shift my focus over just to explaining how exactly Brad's influence impacted me significantly. Brad had this persona about him that was just very charismatic. He was very easy to get along with and just always saw the best in everyone, especially the people that worked closely with him. Our team consisted of 4 people, primarily Air Force personnel. There was 1 or 2 Army guys in there as well. Brad, being the type of person that he was, never saw us by our ranks, but more importantly, as individuals and as equals. I was the most junior enlisted person on the team. However, he never expected any more or less from me than he did the staff sergeants and tech sergeants on the team. His personality and just overall leadership greatly influenced the people around him in a very positive way, especially the people that worked for him. Shifting our time frame over just a tad, this is August of 2006. We had just been in theater a couple of weeks. I was still having a little bit of hard time adjusting to the overall ops tempo and just being deployed for that matter. It came to a point where leadership was considering moving me just to a different team. Brad pulled me over one day and, just knowing, being the type of person he was, realized that there was something wrong. He told me, "Mike, I know that there's a lot more to you that you're giving me and that you're showing these people. You remind me a lot of who I was when I was your age. We typically learn from traumatic experiences," is what he told me. And I was at this point realizing that this traumatic experience he was speaking of was the talk of having me move to another team. He later told me, I spoke with leadership and I let them know that you're not going to move and I want you to stay here on this team because I know that you can do this job and I know you have a lot of potential and I just want you to do the best that you can. So he gave me basically a second chance to prove myself. Well, that was the last time that I was able to speak with Brad. The next day, our convoy got hit by an IED and we lost Brad in that incident. Well, throughout our lives, we make many acquaintances with various people. Some will end as quickly as they began, and others will develop into friendships and personal relationships. Even a smaller few will always have an everlasting impression on a person's life. It is those that we must always cherish and honor, as they are few and far between. Well, 5 years have passed since Brad and I first met in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Not a day goes by that I don't think of him and the last words of wisdom he gave to me before that tragic August day. I'll never understand why things happened the way they did, but I like to think that he had a very special purpose for coming into my life. I owe a great deal to the person that I am today for having had the honor and the privilege of knowing Brad. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.